Welcome to this week's episode of Listen to Your Coaches. I am your coach, Mike Wilkins, here with Coach Will Morrill. And behind the scenes, we have our producer, Max Gerald. This week, we're going to run down the 247 Fighting Championships card, Brawl in the Berg. Max, what number was that?
I believe this was 27.
Brawl in the Berg, 27. And then, as always, we'll talk a little UFC, and then Max is going to try to get us fired up. All right, Coach Will, are you ready to rock?
I suppose so.
So we're going to run through the entire 247 card, bottom to top. Yeah, let's run it. I mean, I watched every fight on the card, so.
I unfortunately did not, but that's okay.
Well, I'll cover that slack. All right, so let's start right at the bottom. Okay, so we had a novice amateur featherweight bout between Chris Brace of the Academy and Hunter Martz of React Fighting Arts. All right, so yeah, I like this fight. It was a good fight. Both guys making their amateur debut, and they came out like they came to fight. They both came to fight. Yeah. They both rocked each other. Well, maybe not rocked, but they both landed some solid strikes, some damaging strikes early in the first. It was kind of back and forth. I would give Chris Brace the first round, and then in the second round, basically same thing. They were just both cracking each other, aggressive, not backing down from the fight, which is good to see out of debuting amateurs.
Any shot entries?
Nothing that really stands out too much to me. Again, this was, the first fight of the night, so bear in mind that I'm remembering from all the way then.
Yeah.
But I remember both guys having moments, but then Chris Brace did end up taking the back and finishing with a rear naked choke. But neither fighter has anything to be disappointed about. Great debuts on both ends, showing a real fighter spirit there.
For sure.
Right on. Cool. All right, so then we're moving on, and we have our very own Skyler Lesko versus Justin Wicker. Yeah. Will, this was a fight in your area.
Dude, this is a fun one. So, first round starts out obviously standing, and this guy's landing a couple decent jabs. He's not throwing a ton of volume, but when he does throw, he's got some heat on it. And Wicker's able to get him to the cage and eventually takes him down. Was that on the first entry? Or
yeah, no. So Wicker does get a takedown, like more than. In the first half of the first, Wicker gets a takedown. Sky ends up in a full closed guard, right? And works his way back up to the feet. Gets up to the feet. Wicker's back in on a high crotch. Runs Sky into the fence. Sky's able to defend against the takedown.
That's it.
But he's unable to really separate until about the 10-second mark. So it wasn't really enough. And honestly, I'm going to have to give that first round to Wicker.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
He didn't land enough damage to outdo that takedown.
Right, yeah. Not enough damage to outdo that takedown. However, I left that first round as Sky's coach very confident in how the fight was going to go because I felt that game plan was going to be difficult to employ throughout the entirety of the fight. And I felt like momentum was starting to shift into Sky's favor. Like Sky got taken down and he got back up. So he was like, oh, I can get up.
Exactly.
Right?
Confidence for Sky.
And then Sky nearly got taken down, but utilized the cage and some decent takedown defense to stop. He was like, oh, not only can I get up, but I can stop the takedown.
Yeah.
And then he cleared out and was able to escape off the cage. So I think those three things really changed the tide and momentum for Sky, who is just such a athletic, explosive person. So then he got to kind of take a deep breath for the second round and just kind of let it fly, and let it fly it did.
Yeah, so, he backed Wicker up to the fence, and Wicker was using kind of like a really high guard with his elbows open a little bit. I'm sure you can hear it on in the broadcast. You're screaming, uppercut in between the guard. It was so open,
Bro, Sky and Farman, right? I'm not a striking coach, okay? But this is you don't need to be a striking coach to see this is open. Farman, remember his fight in LFA last year?
Yeah, dude,
he threw 400 overhand rights. And I was like, bro, if you throw one of these fucking things straight, this fight's over.
Also, every jab he threw landed. I was like, dude, just throw more than one jab. Everyone lands.
Right? And I'm just seeing dude, it's I don't know if it's cheese on a board or what, But dude,
Slide
it
it
was
out.
wide open. But Sky ends up landing a nice left hook to the body.
Yeah, and because Wicker was against the cage and Sky had, landed a couple decent jabs and had shown the threat of heavy strikes, he had that space to like really look and observe. And he saw the same thing. Didn't come to the same conclusion you did, but he did get to that body, landed a left hook from hell. I actually just heard it from an Instagram story of someone who was in the crowd, and I was like, well, that's exactly how I remember it. Because sometimes when you're in the corner, not everything happens exactly the way that you remember it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's one of those ones I'm like, oh no, that happened exactly like that. He hurt this kid bad. Wicker goes down, and then Sky starts just pounding on his body. And eventually gets the TKO. But while that was happening, you looked at me and you were like, yo, should he let him up? And I was like,
bro, yeah, because like he's going
Maybe.
TKO because he can't hit to the head, so he's going TKO to the body.
and Wicker put
And, like-
the side that was hurt down. Now, granted,
Yeah,
when
yeah.
your body's hurt, like the whole thing.
Well,
is
yeah,
hurt.
it's like, okay, so here's the thing. So Sky and like Chip's like closing in, and I'm like, oh, like this, like Chip might stop this, and like,
Yeah.
I mean, for a novice Amy where he can't hit him in the head, and Wicker is just like down,
Yeah.
covered up, like this should probably be stopped, but like maybe Sky should just call him back up,
Did you know what I thought in my head, but I like wasn't able to express it in like the 5 seconds or whatever when we're having this conversation? Do you remember when Khalil Roundtree fought? Now I can't remember who it was, but the dude goes down and he's kind of covering up, and then he gets up onto all fours, and Khalil just punts his
Yeah,
ribs.
who was that? Max? Do you remember who it was?
Yeah, that was Carl Roberson.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, dude, maybe like let him get onto all fours and just punt his ribs.
Yeah, I don't know.
But either
But-
way, it worked out. Sky got the TKO
Yeah,
win.
Sky got the TKO. He looked great. I think that was a good like progression for
agree.
him. I look forward to him getting back in. Hopefully, we get him back in sooner than later.
Yeah.
I would like to see him fight again before July. Also, the tip of the cap to Justin Wicker. I'm pretty sure he's either 20 or 21.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a baby. So
Dude, and he had good takedowns. He was transitioning decently well.
Yeah.
He's,
yeah, like Justin Wicker can be very good, and I expect to see a lot more of him in the future. You know what I mean? Just a baby, like, yeah. Wait till he's mid 20s.
Yeah, dude, he's gonna be a monster.
Yeah. All right, so let's move it on. So this will be our last novice prelim. It was is that correct? 160-pound catchweight. 160-pound catchweight fight between Brandon Cherry. I apologize. I can't quite remember who Brandon Cherry fights at. What do you click on Brandon Cherry for me, Max? But Brandon Cherry fighting Forrest Cressley out of React Fighting Arts. Brandon Cherry representing.
Cherry's Gym.
Does it say that there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cherry's Gym. Okay. All right. Right on. All right. Awesome. Yeah. So, dude, in this fight, first off, so as a lot of people probably know, we're really tight with React. The owner of React was one of my main training partners my entire developmental time coming up. Lance Thompson used to beat the shit out of me all the time. Now sometimes I can pay him back, so it's cool. But Forrest Cressley, here goes what I have to say about his fight. Dude, offense is the best defense, right? This kid was never not on offense.
Dude.
The entire time. So he ended up winning by first round submission late in the first round, but he was on offense the entire time. He never stopped being on offense. He was just like, like pressure, striking, kicking, this and that, shooting takedowns, like just like nonstop on offense. So he never had to be on defense. And, I think that's what got the ball rolling for him. He eventually got the takedown and, found the back and got a strangle to finish it off.
Dude, and it's an interesting theme that you and I have been talking about a lot recently about how defense doesn't win fights. And I'm not saying defense is important, but it's not what wins fights. And also we, just discussed, talking to certain fighters about this is like your offense will shut down specific things in your opponent's offense, right? Because they're being forced into defensive positions. So yeah, I think that's a big theme.
Yep. All right, cool. All right, so moving on. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, that's
moving
right,
on to
yeah.
our next fight of the night. It's listed as number 6 on Tapology, but they ran it fourth. Our very own Joao Martinez versus Bobby Smith. Where's Bobby Smith fighting out of? Oh gosh, is he
250? Route 250?
Yeah, Route 250 Martial Arts. Very good team. very good team. I believe Andrew Law is the coach of that squad there, and and he was a very good fighter himself. He might still be fighting.
Oh, wow.
He might not have retired yet. I'm not sure. But yeah, Will, go ahead.
Yeah, so Bobby Smith, just relentless takedowns, good chain wrestling as well. And he controlled Joao on top for the majority of the fight, unfortunately, for us. Joao had his moments where he was getting his standing positions, getting some strikes out there. The pressure on the ground and from the takedowns eventually ended up being too much.
Yeah, so the fight went like game plan wise, like as predicted, like as far as like strategy, right? Like Joao trying to keep it on the feet, Bobby trying to take it to the ground. Early in the first, Bobby did get a takedown, and Joao was able to get back up from it, which was a good sign
For sure.
For us. But Bobby was relentless in his pursuit of the takedown. And then once he got the takedown, he started making some adjustments to keep Joao square underneath. Joao was playing a closed guard in which he was trying to create an angle and work towards a triangle choke by bringing one of his knees inside the arm, which can help you create an even better angle and attack the triangle. And he was making some progress for that. But with that kind of being the, repetitive step, Bobby picked up on it and made more efforts to keep his head on the correct side and to square the hips up, which ultimately kept Joao on the bottom position. Some things that I would have liked out of Joao in this fight was there were moments where he started to bring his strikes down lower, right? He threw a nice rear uppercut, which it might have clipped him, or like it definitely was a serious threat. And then after that, the strikes just started to come back up high. In that moment, but fought till the bitter end. So there you go.
Yeah, and I mean, knowing Joao, I'm sure we'll see him back soon.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So next was this fight was wild.
Yeah. Can I start real quick?
Yeah. Are we gonna introduce him?
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
All right. So it was a women's catchweight fight at 110 pounds. So that's a catchweight between 105 and 115, 105 being the atom weight division and 115 being the strawweight division. This fight was between Tatiana Santos and Paige Wilcox. Dude, you can take it away, but this fight was awesome.
Dude, it was sick. So I'd heard Hunter, like it was a clip or a podcast or whatever, where he was like, dude, this fight's going to be super high level. And like, we understand what a promoter's job is to tell everyone it's high level and they could be pros and everything. He was not lying at all.
Bro, for sure.
I grabbed Hunter he like walked past me when this fight was going on. I was like, bro, they're really good.
Dude, really good.
One thing that really stuck out to me was it Wilcox? Yes. Who won, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She had the sickest, like there was just this one moment in the fight that just stuck out to me. The sickest, like faint right kick into a left, I believe it was a left uppercut. And just like the timing on it and like the precision, like, when you just watch striking, you're like, that's so smooth, like that person's good. It was that.
Dude.
And they both were fantastic too. It was a fast-paced fun
Yeah,
fight.
no, I thought so Santos, she was able to get a takedown in the fight, and she did start off pretty hot because she was landing like some of her looping strikes and stuff, and she's very athletic. She's quick. I saw her fight in September at the fights that were at the All-American Fieldhouse.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's it. Yeah. So like, I knew she was good. But I didn't know anything about Paige Wilcox, but now I do. And like, there's something about like her striking. It's hard for me to put a word on it, but it was so like clean and strong.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean?
Effective.
Like just like very effective, but like the strikes were like, just like they just looked like so like vicious. You know what I mean?
Intent.
Yeah, there was so much intent behind each strike, and they just kind of flowed together in such like a really like beautiful way.
Yes.
I mean, I can't imagine that this girl doesn't go pro right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, she looked completely polished to me. So,
Now she is, I'd be willing to bet she's truly an atom weight. So that kind of limits options. But if one is looking to sign, she is very talented.
Yeah. So that does beg the question, like what is the environment at that weight class? You know what I mean? So like, is it like it's probably pretty hard to get fights at that weight class? But damn, dude, like, I mean, if she was like in like more of like a median weight class, like if she was a 25er, right? Like, dude, she should be like pro. She looked completely polished to me.
Agreed.
All right. Oh, she ended up winning that fight.
Yeah.
She landed a knee to the body.
Yeah.
Also, first off, she almost finished it at the end of the first round. But Paige Wilcox landed a knee to the body. We'll call it midway second round, and ended up finishing it up there. Cool. All right. On to advanced Amis. We have a middleweight bout between Hugo Edey, representing Stout PGH, and Ronald.
Castaneda.
Where was he fighting out of? I want to say Upgraded Industries.
It says Ohio, but like he was clearly not from around here.
Well, no, Upgraded Industries.
Industries.
Yeah. I think their schools. Click on them. I think their school is in Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Does it say Mentor? I can't see that far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mentor,
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I remember because I think one of his cornermen might have fought Jonas, but now I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I think it was that fight.
Okay, so yeah, man, this fight was a super entertaining fight.
Yes,
this was
it was.
a banger. Will, I want you to take most of this, but I gotta tell you how impressed I was with Hugo, even in defeat. You know, Hugo
Agreed.
got cracked more than a couple times, and he just kept it trucking forward. You know, go ahead, Will.
Yeah, so I mean, Hugo did exactly what I asked for him to do. I said, I want you to open up with a mean rear kick and just like put it on his arms and let him know that like, you know, he's got a dilemma. Either his arms are out and he's striking and he might get kicked in the ribs, or his arms are back and defending, you know. So he did exactly that. You know, he did a decent job of staying long with his jabs and his teeps. You know, mixing up his strikes, moving his head a little bit in certain positions. You know, Hugo's got a good clinch game, and we saw some of it. I would have preferred to see him like kind of keep it in that like framed clinch area a little bit longer at times. But overall, very impressed with Hugo. Again, there's different types of defeats, right? You know, and despite this one ending the way that it did, like this was one of those ones where, like you said, we're very impressed with Hugo, and we've seen the things that we need to see and know how to progress now from here. And he, you know, definitely has a bright future. You know, I would say that the majority actually of the fight, he was backing up. Well, maybe not the majority, but
yeah, it's hard to put a percentage on it. But like, here goes how I saw the fight. Right, like so, it was kind of even at first, and then Ronald started landing heavier shots. Hugo answered the call and fought back. Right, I would say some weak points here for Hugo, although he did succeed in getting to the hips, but his takedown entries I thought were unbecoming of one of my fighters. Okay, with that being said, dude, like Hugo lost the first round and he got cracked many times in the first round. He was winning the second round.
Yeah, dude. And
he was winning.
When he got knocked out, he
was winning.
Yeah, he had Ronald up against the cage.
Right.
You know, he was like moving his head pretty well in combinations.
Yeah.
He had some fantastic moments. Now, you know, what's his name? Castaneda had dynamite in his hands. Like these are certain people you can tell.
Bro,
like they just hit hard. And he's got like, I don't know, I think all of his fights are by finish. And so eventually he did connect and put Hugo out. But like you said, Hugo looked really good, and there's some changes we can make that are really going to up his game.
Yeah, I mean, like without going into too much detail, I think higher of Hugo's potential after that fight, even though it was a knockout loss. I think higher of his potential after what I saw in that fight than I did going into it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, so now we're on to the amateur main event. This was the 247 lightweight championship fight, contested between champion Clayton Hootley and challenger Garrett Hirschberger.
I'm bummed I didn't see this one. I was in the back. I was getting Lucas warm, but I heard it was incredible.
Dude, I saw it, and it was sick. So first off, they start off, and Garrett Hirschberger cracks Hoot right off bat, right? Like he comes out of Route 250.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, comes out bouncing. He's got like a really bouncy stance and just like jab cross, bop, bop, cracks him, right? Hoot just eats it, fucking one step back, shoots a double leg, runs the double through, and just gets to work. Honestly, the fight was pretty much like along that story. Who like very like, and I don't want it to seem like wrestly, like desperate wrestly. It wasn't right. Like he was really imposing his will with his wrestling. He did a double leg carry him to his corner slam. You know, a lot of big takedowns and a lot of good top pressure and ground and pound. He's had the mount. He had the back, you know, landing good ground and pound from that, just kind of like really overwhelming Hirschberger with like just the variety of his attacks, you know, involving his like wrestling and grappling. And then it opened up the knockout and he knocked him out in the third round.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, it was like, I was like super impressed with Hoot in this fight.
Dude, I got to watch that back.
You should watch it back, dude. It was a super entertaining fight.
I've never seen a non-entertaining Hoot fight.
It was, yeah, I know, right? But it was just like, it was the most impressed I've been. With like, you know, like, have I been more entertained? Yeah, probably the Hoot Cowboy Eddie fight was more entertaining. This was super entertaining still, but like it's kind of hard to top that one. But I've never been more impressed with him than I was after this bout.
Now, obviously, there's, you know, outliers. Generally, you and I like to see like 6, 7 to 10-ish fights before someone goes pro. Hoot's now what, 5-0?
Yeah, he's 5-0.
What do you think?
I think like, you know, you kind of weigh the line there. So I don't know like much of the inside information on it, but he's been out of the cage since February. So I think he was battling some injuries. So I think like you maybe like take his health into account and like just kind of like weigh your options there. Do I think he has the skill to be a pro? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Right. But his coaches will know what to do. Like if like maybe they want some more developmental before then. But like skill wise, he's certainly capable and ready.
Very cool.
All right, on to our first pro fight of the night. We've got Bridget Chase versus Miranda Barber. Click on Miranda Barber's Tapology for me. Is she the bare knuckle boxer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Yeah. So, she fought in PFL too. Dang.
Yeah.
That's a large pro Tapology.
I think I remember Hunter talking about this as well, and he said something along the lines about how like her record isn't, because we know there's different. What's her record, like 2-5 or something?
Yeah.
Like we know there's very different types of 2s and 5s. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, she fought Amanda Levy,
and
it's like 2-5 in MMA, but then right here you've got 3 boxing wins, 2 of which are bare knuckle.
Right.
You know, so it's.
Right. And again, like losses are not all equal. You know what I mean? Like you could lose a very close 30-27 even, you know?
Yeah.
So you just never know. But she impressed me. She looked good.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, Bridget got the win.
If I were to break this down, I would say that when Barber was able to cut off the cage, she was able to find success. And there was moments in the first round where, you know, like Bridget's got that great footwork. She's in and out. She's bouncy. And she's able to cut angles and control where she is in the cage, even though it was a rather small cage. But there were moments in the first where Barber was able to cut her off, right? Whenever she was able to cut her off, she did experience success. With that being said, though, also at the end of the first, Bridget got a takedown. Barber slapped on a guillotine, but Bridget was like crossbody half guard, so the guillotine wasn't really a threat. So that first round was kind of close and competitive due to that, right? But
did she throw the guillotine on mid takedown?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So like that first round, like probably went to Bridget, but like if you said like Miranda Barber, like I could hear you out. But the second and third rounds, Bridget all the way, just imposing like, you know, her game plan, her style, and securing takedowns in all rounds as well.
Yeah. The one thing I'm very impressed with Bridget, which is no surprise. I mean, we've seen them fight for ever. That I'm a big fan of as like, you know, coming from traditional martial arts and everything. Dude, that sidekick, man.
Dude, yeah, seriously.
I love sidekicks. And she puts them sometimes a little higher up, which is cool because if someone's moving forward and you catch someone like in the upper chest with a sidekick, you're way more likely to knock them down. So yeah, I, you know, very much appreciated seeing a, you know, quote, old school technique in modern MMA.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now on to our co-main event. We've got Lucas Steel City Siebert taking on Cameron Jordan, the number 1 ranked featherweight out of Nebraska. I did not know that until right now.
Yeah, me either.
So that's cool. And this was a professional bantamweight fight.
You know what else I learned about them today?
What?
I saw some Instagram posts. They both have a wolf tattoo in the same spot.
Didn't notice that. Wow, that's funny. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, they're friends now.
Yeah, so Cam definitely a vet of the sport, even though he's only 26 years old. That was his 13th pro fight. And Max, could you pull up his Tapology? I believe he had potentially even 20. Could just go down to his amateur record.
Dude's got a million fights.
Is that still pro? Is that amateur? Go to the very top of the amateur record right before he turns pro.
Right there.
All right, zoom in.
13
Zoom in
and
on
8.
that. So 14-8. So he had 22 because that would
Yeah.
that he's 13-8 going into that fight. He went 14-8 as an amateur. So 22 amateur fights plus that was his 35th fight.
Bro, and how old did you say he was? 26?
26 years old.
Dude.
What a G. He probably
For real.
is absolutely no nerves. It's
Yeah, man.
Like, how nervous do you get going to practice? That's how nervous
Yes.
he gets fighting.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, it was a good fight. I just felt like Lucas really controlled the fight. Where the fight was going to take place. Although Cameron did take him down in the first.
Yeah.
Put Lucas on bottom. Lucas wrestled his way back up. Cameron went for a guillotine in that, in which Lucas wrestled through. Found some spots, landed a good elbow on top in the first round. The second round, though, there was a serious guillotine threat. Close guard, arming, guillotine. And that was early in the second. That was kind of dicey, but Lucas got his head to the high side, was able to pummel it into the center of the chest. And then it was like wash, rinse, and repeat, like a lot of the same positions, standing back, one hook in, finding elbows in spots and things like that. But yeah, just a lot of takedowns in the fight, a lot of controlling the position, a lot of gaining towards a dominant position, but unfortunately never able to secure like a mount or a back.
Yeah, I mean, Cam was so scrambly, great at moving his hips on bottom.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm going to have a lot of good things to say about Cam because the things I have to say about Lucas are kind of like geared towards some developmental things. But like you said, I think that Cam probably won the first minute of the fight, right? He came out, good pressure. He had kind of like an Oliveira style, like real vertical, stance, pressured forward, and then got that initial takedown. But then after that, like you said, Lucas's wrestling really took over.
Yeah. So that moves Lucas to 4-0. We're just dealing with some calls with his management company and stuff, looking at some good a lot of opportunities are coming his way now after that win, more than what I expected, so getting a lot of calls for some fun stuff in the future, so be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our main event of the evening. We've got Kama Worthy versus Jeremy Henry. Will?
All right, so let's just start with the bad part of it. Our main man, Kama, unfortunately lost. Was it a TKO?
Yeah, it was a TKO because he was standing.
Still standing. Now, dude, Henry, that dude hits hard. Also, his style is cool. Like, obviously, I'm not happy that he beat Kama, but like, I'm a fan. Dude, he hits so hard, and as soon as he felt Kama was hurt a little bit, he just put it on, and you could see Kama starting to defend a little bit, but then like in the middle of kind of what you were talking about earlier is like those barrages of heavy offense. It's really, really hard to break free of that, especially when you're like stuck against the cage, and unfortunately it ended up being too much. But I mean, I don't really have anything else to say about it. Just kind of bummed.
Yeah, that's about it. I'm just been mainly bummed.
Yeah.
Kama, the most veteran fighter in Pittsburgh MMA history, UFC vet. That was his 32nd professional bout on top of like I believe a 10-fight amateur career and like fights in other sports. You know what I mean? Like kickboxing bouts.
And he's fought so many good guys, and he's just good.
I mean, dude, he's my generation, and he's still going.
Right.
So yeah. A little bit of a sad end to that night, but hey, chin up.
Real quick, how old is Henry? Do we know?
He's in his 30s.
Yeah. Well, I hope that he's just one of those anomalies that goes on to fight for the next 31.
31?
All right.
Yeah.
I hope he goes on to fight for the next 9 years and just like knocks out a gazillion people.
Scroll down. Let me see more about his.
Yeah, from what I understand, he's a live by the sword, die by the sword kind of guy.
Oh, he fought that same dude twice. Abasov. You seeing that?
Where's the second one?
One,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
two. Huh. Click on him. What's his deal?
Dude, Tapology, you could go down a rabbit hole for hours on Tapology.
He's only got 4 fights, and 2 of them are to Jeremy or against Jeremy Henry. Jeez,
Dude, look at all the
cancels.
cancels. Go down.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, that's that. So that's the 247 Fighting Championships from this past weekend. We also had a handful of our fighters fighting in Morgantown, West Virginia. We were originally supposed to have 5 fighters fighting, but Logan Pryor's opponent pulled out the Tuesday before the fight, which is a little sad. You know, like, first off, here goes the thing. Like, we coach, a large fight team. There's been times where we've had fighters, injuries happen. Fighters had to pull out of fights. So I get it. It's part of it. But this particular kid, this is the 3rd time pulling out.
Against Logan.
Well, 2 against Logan, 1 against Brian Hess.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So it's just like, all right, dude, like, too much of a trend. If it's just the world's worst luck, sorry.
But sometimes where there's smoke,
we got to
there's
move
fire.
on. Yeah, where there's smoke, there's fire. So we're moving on from him. And then Davlet Bobakulov's opponent no-showed the entire fight. Just no-showed. They couldn't get a hold of him. Nothing of that nature. But we did have Josh Sarasnik make his second walk to the cage. He fought a Jesse Smith, in which he won a unanimous 30-27 decision. Kevin Dzubik made his amateur debut. He fought a Marlon Ridley, in which he succumbed to a first-round guillotine choke. But
it was later than first. Do you know? I had in my head 3rd, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
I think you're thinking of Joe. I think Kevin's was in the first.
Yeah.
You know what? Never let me question you about numbers ever again.
I think it. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you after that I know the exact second.
Okay. I should have known.
All right. Yeah. But Marlon Ridley, from what I was told, Kevin, cracked him a bit. Must have shot in. Marlon Ridley guillotined him up. And Marlon has come to my knowledge that he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
So, not too much to be sad about there.
Yeah.
And then we also had Joe Lehman. From the accounts I was given from the cornerman who went there, Joe was up 2-0, won the first and second round, and then got submitted in the 3rd round. So we've got to close those fights out. But all fighters will be back, and they will be better than ever. So good job to the crew who went down to Morgantown to represent the team.
For sure. Shouts out to Coach Randy.
Yep, Coach Randy, Coach Andy, and Vasoki down there cornering them boys. And I'm for taking Davlat down, even though his opponent
no-showed
the whole thing.
That's ridiculous.
All right, cool. So there was a UFC this weekend, and man, dude, let me tell you about these fights.
Brother.
I didn't watch any of them. Just kidding. I watched a fight.
I watched one fight. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched one fight.
Which I think is the reason we're not going to talk about this at all, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Right on. Let's move on. Speaking of the UFC, it looks like I saw some rumors about this months ago, but now it's looking like when they're done with their ESPN deal, they're going to Netflix.
Yeah.
Now, I've got questions, and I'm not sure.
I got answers. I know all the answers.
Oh,
I've
brother.
spoke, so you guys might not know, but I'm personal friends with Hunter Campbell, so me and him, we talk quite regularly, and he told me a lot about how they're not happy with the ESPN platform. They're not happy with the user interface, the user experience, and things of that nature. So they're in heavy talks with Netflix about not just moving to the platform, but also forming a coup against ESPN and storming their offices. No, I made every single bit of that up.
Well, with that said,
Hunter Campbell is somebody from the UFC, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So what's interesting about that is, from what I saw, like one Instagram post about, I believe they're like a little not fired up about how ESPN's like like streaming quality is, or something along those lines, which is interesting to me because what was the first combat sports event that we saw on Netflix?
Was it not Paul Tyson?
Yeah, in which like my stream was fine, but everyone like reported having issues with, and also they showed Mike Tyson's ass on live TV.
Oh yeah, they
Hilarious.
did. They did
so it's kind
that.
of funny that that's what they're going to, but I'm sure Netflix is like promising them the world. And the other thing I saw was ESPN wasn't happy about the pay-per-view numbers. Now this is interesting to me because one, you could make the argument that the UFC is starting to oversaturate the market a little bit, right? And they're a little less like star dependent and a little more volume dependent.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like, are they even going to be able to?
This is what we need to be talking about today. Let's go.
Are they even going to be able to do pay per view through Netflix? Like, I've
So
never,
I hope not.
Yeah, I've never bought anything.
I hope not.
Through Netflix like that. Yeah,
Max.
wouldn't that be sick if there was just like no more pay per views?
No more pay-per-views. Yeah, that'd be so sick. Max, what do we know about that?
I'm looking into it right now, but it sounds like Netflix wants them to completely eliminate the pay-per-view model.
So
Let's
sick.
Get
go.
rid of that.
Let's
Let's
go.
go.
Get rid of it. Get rid of it. If they don't eliminate the pay-per-view model, Max promised through a promo code he will buy your next pay-per-view. Okay, so that's cool. Let's talk about I would like to talk about, is the market oversaturated?
Yeah.
Like, where are the stars?
And that's
is this good?
specifically-
Is this bad?
It's like it's not just the oversaturation. It's like it's the UFC's like marketing of the UFC itself as opposed to stars, right? Think about the like McGregor era, think about like the Rousey era.
Think about it. That's what I want to get into. Let's
Yeah,
think
yeah,
about
yeah.
those eras. Okay, tell me about them.
So like if you think about like Conor, right? The
Yeah.
way that they marketed his fights, and maybe I'm just remembering this wrong. Maybe they're still doing similar things. I don't know. But like when he fought Floyd, and I realized Floyd was not a UFC fight, but they did. Oh, no, how about better yet, Aldo? They did a massive like press tour,
World Tour, yeah.
all for one giant fight that ended in 13 seconds. You know what I mean? And like,
The fight ended up not happening when they did that massive tour.
Wait, really? And then
Yeah.
they delayed it?
They did a massive tour, and then he fought Chad Mendes.
that's right.
Oh, that's right. Mike remembers more than everybody
Yeah,
else.
I
Oh my
forgot
God.
about that.
I didn't.
Dude, that's sick. You know what I thought that was? I thought that was the gap where he fought Siebert. When was
No.
that? Was that before that?
Yeah, that was before.
Wow, interesting. But regardless, like their marketing seemed to me different than it is now. Right now, it seems to me it's just like, look, we got the UFC on ESPN all the time, and again, this is my very limited, just like me scrolling Instagram, being like, oh, look at this post, you know what I mean? But like, I don't see the same like star power. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, but like, what are you going to do about it? If
No
there's no
stars.
stars, there's no stars.
Well, I think there are guys who are marketable as stars, right?
Like Conor McGregor.
I mean, not to that level.
That's what I'm saying. Are you going to force that? Are you going to force that? Like,
Well,
someone to be that?
Okay, so obviously Conor came in with a ton of star power already, right? Like I remember seeing reports about him.
Dude, the
before
other
that
thing
time.
is, like, you got to win.
That's true too.
You got to win.
But what I'm saying is like the UFC also propped Conor up and continued that ball rolling. You know what I mean? And it's not like they don't have guys that they could get behind like that, right? Like, and I'm not just saying guys, like if you look at the guys who are winning, right? Who has the potential to be popular, right? So you have the Bilals, who the MMA community hates for whatever reason, right? And you have the Ankalaevs, who like, I guess he's kind of boring in some ways, whatever. But like, he's obviously good. He's winning a lot. But then you also have Topuria, right? Topuria is very similar to Conor in that he can get the European
so
market.
quiet. He's so quiet.
I feel like when I've seen him in interviews, dude, how about this though? Don't see him in very many interviews, but is that because of the UFC's marketing or is that because of him and like not producing enough like viral moments that make the
Well, was Conor because of the UFC's marketing, or did the UFC's marketing happen because of Conor?
I think it's a little chicken and an egg, and it became like an exponential.
I think it's
snowballing
Conor
effect.
in the egg. I think it's 100% Conor.
Yeah, you're right, because he was huge
Conor
before he
versus
got to the
Marcus.
UFC.
Yeah, there was that, and then him versus Marcus Brimage. He's talking the most shit, doing the craziest 50 G's, baby.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, come on, dude. Like, dude, it was Conor. Conor was first.
You know what? That's a good point. So who would you say is the biggest star in the UFC right now?
John Jones.
I think he's waning a little bit. I think it's probably Poatan, or was, I guess, until.
So I don't know how you want to say it, but I would say so. If you're talking about the biggest star in the UFC, you're talking about an active fighter,
Yeah.
right? And by active meaning like actually on the roster.
Right.
Is Conor McGregor still technically an active fighter?
I couldn't tell you.
All right, so let's disqualify him.
Yes.
All right, it's John Jones. Here goes. What metrics do you use?
Well, I would say that like if I were the UFC, my metric is strictly pay-per-view buys. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, all right. Well, your metric is strictly pay-per-view buys.
But me personally,
What were you asking? What was the question again? Who's the most?
Oh yeah. Who's
the biggest
UFC's,
star?
Like,
in you?
biggest star right now?
It's John Jones. Like Peloton. Like okay. Like for example, if we were to walk down the street and I was like, "Hey, name me a UFC champion right now," right? People, they're gonna get a bunch wrong. They're gonna say Conor McGregor. Like,
Yeah.
no, he's actually not a champ anymore. Oh, okay. But 10 times more people are gonna say John Jones than they're gonna say Alex Pereira.
I wonder. Yeah,
You
sounds
wonder.
right.
You wonder.
Well, let me ask you
Dude,
this too. This
sure.
is a qualifying question.
Get your phone out. Let's
U.S.
start
or
calling
worldwide?
people.
U.S. or worldwide too? Because I'm thinking about the whole world. In the U.S., I think you're definitely.
I would say both.
Real quick, Max, can you Google who the current like biggest pay-per-view draws are?
That doesn't matter.
And you're hitting on what I'm talking about. It's
No,
like,
I'm hitting
who
on
knows about them.
okay, like for example, like Conor McGregor, right? Like how many people? If you walk down the street and we're like, "Hey, have you ever heard of Conor McGregor?" How many people are going to say yes versus no?
Right, overwhelmingly, yeah. He transcended
Right.
the sport.
Okay. Same thing with John Jones.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't forget, like John Jones has been around forever too. So like
Exactly.
there's that too. But there's a lot of people who don't know who Alex Pereira is.
For sure. Let me put it this way. I agree with you 100% that he has more of that, like what I'm talking about in star power, like creating moments that like we are going to see on our Instagram and like doing things that you and I are going to be talking about, like the people we know. But in terms of pay-per-view draws, I'm looking at those like as separate things. I'm not sure if that's the case. Like I imagine he's a big draw, right?
Who?
John.
Yeah, but I think what you're going to get at with these numbers is, let's say John Jones, just to put like blank numbers on it, let's say John Jones does 1 million,
Mm-hmm.
all right, and Alex Pereira does 400,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, Alex fights 4 times for every 1 time John's fights, so
That's
that's
a good
1,600.
point, too.
That's 1.6 million pay-per-view buys versus 1.
Right.
Now, you also go into operating costs and stuff like that. So, like, it's not exactly a 1-to-1 thing, but
also, like you said, the
if you're going to
staying
make
power.
one, like, let's just use money.
Right.
Like, how much money do you make off this fighter? If I make $1 million every time John Jones fights, and I only make $400,000 every time Alex Pereira fights, it's like, okay, John Jones is the more valuable fighter.
Right.
But if John Jones only fights once for every 4, well, then I just made 1.6 million off of Alex. That's 600,000 more than off of John because John will only fight once.
That's a good point too. And you have to imagine each UFC event, they're selling merch, they're building like.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to like just
No,
get
no,
a
no, no.
standard
That was just
here.
that was an interesting
on
wrinkle
ways
that
to
I
look at
hadn't
it.
thought of it in that way before. But the fact
Somebody
that,
needs to be a star. Somebody needs to
Yes.
be a star. There's no one who's really captivating
And
enough to
you know
be a
who
star
that
right now.
was going
and
to
that's
be?
it was going to be Sean O'Malley.
Exactly.
Right? But then he lost, right? And he lost in a way that like if Conor lost that fight, he would not have accepted that. He'd be like, I didn't lose. I only count knockouts.
Right.
Right? Like he would say some shit like that. Like to like
and O'Malley did, but he waited like a week. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't that same. Dude, you're totally right about this. Conor just had win, lose, or draw. He had those moments. Think about when he broke his leg.
Yeah.
He was like, Joe, get over here. Your wife is in me DMs. Like
Yeah.
just going nuts. He's constantly creating those moments that make him marketable. And like I'm just not seeing that even from O'Malley, right? Like he has this like funny little Instagram videos, but like, can you think of like an exciting quote of his? Can you think of?
is that even what we want though? Is that what we want?
I don't know if it's what we want, but it's what we collectively as like the MMA community need, right? Because
Do we though, or are we on track to something better? Are we on track to where and I don't know if it's better, but are we on track to where the sport is bigger than the star? I think that's the healthiest. The sport being bigger than the star. Okay, all right. Because when the star retired, like okay, like
Right, yeah,
who's the
yeah.
biggest star in the NFL?
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Who's-
yeah.
you know what I
Oh,
mean?
I have no idea, but I get your point. I think the way I was looking at it is like, all right, so McGregor transcends the sport, right? and that drags the sport with it. He goes, maybe the sport suffers a little bit, but it doesn't go down as much as like its pre-Conor levels, right?
Yeah, it didn't.
Does that make sense?
I would say it didn't.
And I think it's
But
more
this is exactly what
exciting.
happened. Conor
Yeah.
rose the sport. Now
Yes.
he's gone, and it did drop.
And that's my point is I think that we need more of those stars who drag the sport with it. And then when they leave, that's okay. But then someone else comes along and
What
does
about
it.
boxing? Boxing has those, right? Has those stars on occasion that bring it up, but like it never sticks.
But here's the difference is it's a totally different business model, right? Like you have all these different organizations and they have to like negotiate within themselves to create these fights. And boxing is 100% star power driven. I do think there's value in the fact that the UFC is not 100% star power driven.
That's what I'm saying. It might be healthier
yeah.
for the sport.
Right. But I think my point is, 100%. For its longevity, the sport itself needs to be like
Because if you're personality driven, if you're star driven, well, that star goes away.
right. But
Right.
my point is the stars are what makes it exciting and then force more of that growth. And like you said, we're not seeing those stars. We're not seeing those breakout guys. And the fact that, dude, we're splitting hairs here. We're talking John Jones. I mean, maybe we're not. Maybe the numbers are it doesn't matter. But like we're talking John Jones and Pereira. They're both late 30s. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to be around forever.
Yeah. They're both
Like
tail end.
How about this? Who are the young guys that we're excited about? It was like Peyton Talbot. He just lost. Everyone's like kind of like low on him, right? Who are like the young stars that were like, oh, that guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I can't think of that many. It was the Bonfim brothers. Like they were like doing well. Oh, you know who could be the next wave of stars? The Fighting Nerds, dude. Tell me how you, dude. Also, hold on. Let me just tell you this real quick,
I'm starting to like them.
dude. Listen to I started listening to Kaio Baralio or however you say his name on
The Jackson podcast.
the Jackson podcast, dude. First of all, his English is tremendous. Like you're not gonna have to be like, what is he saying? And it just makes you like him even more, dude.
I'm sure I'm gonna like them. I was just being like anti you guys.
Dude, not only that, it's like that's part of the sport. It's fun to be a hater. You know what I mean? Like think about like why we disliked Taporia so badly. Like it was just like little minor issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was minor things. Mainly, he was anti-Max.
Think about how
So I didn't like him.
How much I hated Chael when he was fighting Anderson.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
And now like everyone likes Chael, right? He's just so
Everyone.
entertaining.
He's the best.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need another Chael.
Dude, yeah, that's the other thing. Who talks like Chael? Like people could be like, oh, well, Colby. No. Colby does not talk like Chael. You know what I mean? Everyone hates Colby. Like, yeah, we don't have those like beloved, like almost delusional shit talkers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, Chael was so good. Okay, so here goes the other thing. Max wants to talk about this a lot. He wants to talk about how whack some of these fight nights are, and like, are we oversaturating? Max, can you be in on this?
I have a good point for this.
Max
guy.
is too busy playing on his phone. He's playing Clash of Clans.
Just to lead this off, I saw Jack Slack release a podcast that said this last card, or well, yeah, Vettori Dolidze was like the most like apex card that like you could have or something. I'm like, the fact that that's like a term tells you all you need to know.
I love it. I think it's great.
Everyone who like knows MMA deeply, I feel like likes apex cards more because you can hear everything.
No, it's not even that. It's just this. Okay, Max, you spit.
And
you
you have the
spit.
volume.
Let
But yeah,
Max
Max, go
spit.
ahead.
So that way, because hopefully Max says some shit that I disagree with, and I can get all fucking crazy.
All right, let's get it.
I think it's oversaturated. I think the Apex cards are like Apex
So you would
cards
rather
as
them
a
go
term.
away?
To a degree, I would rather less of them. I think that we need more like 1 week breaks. I think that that's not the end of the world. I don't like it, but I think we need more 1 week breaks where you can like. Vettori and Dolidze is a rematch.
Okay.
It's a rematch because like it's a filler rematch. There was no demand for a second fight. There was no one that actually wanted. There was no one like, man, that first fight was like really controversial, and I wish I could have seen. No one cared about that. It doesn't really do anything for the title picture. Both guys have like recent losses to like at least 3 people above them in the rankings right now. They're not really going anywhere. It's just a filler card, and it doesn't mean that the fights itself were like bad. Like I didn't watch a lot of the fights, but I heard that Vettori and Dolidze was actually a pretty good fight. That's great, but
the opposite. But.
Well, it doesn't matter.
That's the point. It doesn't like long term. It doesn't really matter. It's just to give you.
So does that
something
mean
to
that we
look at.
shouldn't do them?
No, hold on, Mike. Can I ask you
Yeah.
a question before? So, Max, you're what, 20? So Were you watching the UFC when there's no way, when there was like one card like a month maybe?
Dude, I was watching the UFC where there was one pay-per-view every 4 months. That was it. There were like 3 UFCs a year.
I think that kind of sweet spot for when like each event was like still a big deal.
Bro, you guys, no, it's as many fights as you can have is the right answer.
I agree, but for a different reason than you. Or maybe not a different reason from you, actually.
All right, here goes. All right, Max, listen to this. Okay, so the fact that they can have these fights every weekend means that there's more fighters on the UFC roster, right? That makes the UFC stronger because if these lower grade fighters who you don't want to watch fight, right, aren't on the roster, well then where are they? They're in LFA, they're in Fury, they're in CFFC, okay? So then where are those fighters? They're pushed back a level. The current like those guys get pushed back a level, and that means that everybody's getting paid just a little bit less and a little bit less. So the value here is that these guys are now in the UFC sooner, fighting on these, which used to be regional level cards, are now Apex cards, right? But now the UFC has them under contract, therefore they don't have to worry about this potential kid who no one knows is going to be a star yet going to the PFL. Because now you're in the UFC and you're fighting on our Apex cards.
And
or we could just not have those Apex cards, and then we, the UFC, could potentially lose this star to PFL because PFL figured out that they were going to be a star before we did.
And Mike, you're spitting some hot fire here because think about it like this too. What you were saying earlier, that like the level of the sport itself, we're calling it the UFC because it essentially is. It just has more exposure to casuals, right? And how many times have we watched like an Apex card and we're like, oh, it's supposed to be a shitty Apex card. And you're like, wow, this was incredible. Like what we had a couple weeks or months ago or whatever, right? And also what I said is we need a star to bust out. Dude, you don't get stars unless you cast a wide net, right?
Cast a wide net. And
give
you,
these guys opportunities.
And you own all their stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so for example, what if...
That's a good point too.
So Connor's Cage Warriors stuff, right? Thankfully, they're a UFC Fight Pass affiliated thing, so they had all that. They had all that material, right? Now these guys are getting you're getting it in the UFC.
Yeah.
So you're getting all that material in the UFC. I mean, that's fine. If you want to eliminate these Apex cards and cut 200 fighters off the roster, that's fine. Those 200 fighters are now getting pushed back into the LFA to Fury and stuff like that. And then all those current fighters are getting pushed back a level as well. Everybody just gets pushed back a level. And now next thing you know, Max, you can't get amateur fights no more because all the current pros have to be amateurs and take all the spots on these local cards that you wanted to fight on.
But if there's more fighters out there in the market for PFL, for ONE, for like those other organizations, isn't that better for me too?
No. And here's why. Because they have shown, like the PFL and Bellator and whatever, their whole motto was we pay more than the UFC and we're going to be able to compete with the UFC because of that and we'll draw talent. And did they?
I think it's too late now, but like say, and obviously this is like ifs and buts, but like say 10 years ago, had that been the case, would the increase of fighters on the market for other organizations, wouldn't that have been better than what it is now?
No, because it was the case.
Right.
It went in practice. The UFC didn't have a fight every weekend then, so all the fighters were available.
Now,
those fighters who now fill up all these Apex cards that we're seeing, the undercards on the Apex cards, all those fighters were available for Strikeforce, for Bellator.
I'm not saying we should totally get rid of the Apex cards. I think the Apex itself, like having events there, I'm tired of that. I don't like the Apex as a thing
like my thing is that like you can not like watching it and not want to like waste your time watching it, then don't watch it. Like that's fine.
No,
but you want it to exist because if that Apex card doesn't exist, well, then that's just an LFA card that you're also not watching.
Okay, now Max, let me do what I was not able to do for you when you were on Lucas's podcast and you were just floundering when you were making the argument that John Jones wasn't the GOAT, which you were wrong, but I could have helped you. So allow me to play devil's advocate, or let me play Max's advocate here.
Play Max's advocate.
Mike, what do we do about the problem where if the market's super saturated, how do we create a card that like gets you excited? How do we create a card that's worth the pay-per-view? How do we make those special if they're just like
you have levels to it. My thing is like this. All right? So, look at the Apex cards as like the way you would look at a regional level fight. Right? Do you want to get rid of regional level fights, Max? Do you want to get rid of the LFA? Do you want to get rid of the CFFC?
No.
No, right? You like that to exist. So look at the Apex cards as another level of that. MMA has grown. So now there's a whole other level. There's 10x fighters now trying to do this for a career, and now there's an opportunity to do it. So it's like this. It's like, okay, if you're fighting on the apex cards, on like the undercards or maybe the main cards, you're like you're like you're like minor league almost. You're like a B level fighter, right? And then once you become an A level fighter, now you're on the pay-per-views. Okay, now there's some crossover there. For example, an A level fighter who might be, or a B level fighter who might be able to be on a UFC pay-per-view undercard might get the main event, an Apex card, right? And then they might be like, okay, now we're gonna see your, like, how you carry a card, and then that's how you get on the main card of a pay-per-view, you know? So, like, you know, I mean, it's just like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like majors and minors. So, right, like, there's like 1 million jiu-jitsu tournaments a year, right? Let's use the IBJJF, for example, right? I was just supposed to do Indy. There's Chicago coming up, New York coming up. There's an IBJJF Open every weekend, right? But then every October, there's the Pan Am Championships. And every December, there's the World Championships, right? You could do the same thing with the UFC. Like, you know what? Like, don't watch the Apex cards then, you know? Like, I didn't watch the last Apex card. I watched one fight on it, okay? The next fight is going to be Leon versus Brady, right? That's like a tier up. That's a fight night, right? It's not a pay-per-view, but it's a fight night. And then the next pay-per-view is going to be a banger, you know? What's the next pay-per-view main event? It's Volk and Lopez and Jack versus Bilal.
No, that's the
May.
month after.
After.
But
isn't there something else on the Volk Lopez card?
It's
that's
just
like,
a really stacked card.
All right. So they're still they're trying to stack the pay-per-views. So, do you know what? I think the UFC doesn't care what you guys think about the Apex cards, because they're just holding their commodity, right? All right, yeah, don't watch it. Like, it's like this, like some sports teams do this where, like, let's say, like, Max, let's say we have the best quarterback, right? Right? Now the second best quarterback is also available, right? He's on free agency. Should we get him? No. Why? We already have the best. Why would we want the second best? To stop someone else from having him. So we'll get him. Now we have the best and second best. So now the other team can't have that guy, to stop someone else from having him. That's what the UFC is doing with these fighters. They're stockpiling them up, stopping them from having them. And here goes the thing we should be thankful for too, is the UFC is keeping them active. What do we hate about PFL? What do we hate about one? Is that they sign these dudes, and these dudes, they're going to get more money than they would get in the UFC, except no, because they only get to fight once a year, if that, right? So they could have fought 3 times in the UFC, because the UFC has an Apex card every weekend.
Max, you better be on some fire, because I'm running out of support for you.
No, I don't think
that.
I don't think that you're wrong at all. Like, there's things there that I like as a fan.
Max, did you not text me 2 days ago saying that I was an idiot for liking Apex cards?
True or false?
True or false, Max?
I don't think I said that.
You said it.
Did I say that?
Don't make me screenshot. You said, Mike, you dumbass. This, and that.
Yeah, that sounds
Apex
like me.
cards are trash. No one wants to see those guys. They should all retire.
Now, hold on. Let me ask you both a question, okay?
Yeah.
I personally very much enjoy watching the Apex cards for, I would say, probably the 2 main reasons.
The environment.
Well, actually, there's like 3 reasons, I guess. So, one being the environment. I actually prefer watching fights without a massive crowd. I shouldn't say prefer. They both have their merits. But, like, for me, I like hearing the corner. I like hearing the fight itself. To me, that tells me a lot. Because sometimes you'll hear, like, a slappy kick, and people are like, oh, and I'm like, oh, that was a slappy kick. Like, it just brushed off the arms. Where you hear, like, that thud of it going into someone's neck or head, and you're like, oh, I know what that did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can like both. Like, I prefer to have a big old ribeye, but sometimes I want a cheeseburger.
Right. But hold on. I'm sorry. I'm talking about what I like about Apex cards. Well, actually, let me spit that out there. I like that. I also like the fact that a lot of times you don't know some of the fighters. So 1, you can learn about them. And 2, sometimes you're surprised by the quality. You know what I mean? Sometimes you go to watch a fight, you're like, it's just going to be cool. Something I'll have it on the background. And then you're like, dude, this is incredible. And it ends up being a great card. So, like, personally, I really like the fights in the Apex. What do you guys think?
Me, it's not that. So I do like the fights in the Apex, because I do like the intimacy that even portrays through the TV.
Yeah.
But that's like a sidebar to it. I like that there's fights on all the time.
An opportunity for those
and
fighters. That's
I like that I don't feel obligated to watch them. If I like that they're there.
Yeah.
Right? But I also like that, like, you know, like this weekend I didn't want to watch them because I had something else going on, and I don't feel like I missed out.
That's a good point. Whereas if it was a massive pay-per-view, I'd be like, dude, I gotta watch it on Sunday so I can talk about it. You know?
Yeah.
That's a good point. Dude, Max, I was playing devil's advocate for you, but I'm out, dude. I'm so in on Apex.
What if you're
cards.
hungry? You know what I mean? Like, what if you're hungry, but there's no pay-per-view that weekend, right? Imagine you're hungry and you're like, oh, why would I keep food in my fridge? You know what? I'm keeping too much food in my fridge, right? I'm not going to eat it. I'm keeping. And then you get hungry, you open the fridge and there's no food in there, right? You want to know that there's food in there when you
dude,
open the fridge.
Better than that. You know what an Apex card is?
What?
You know how sometimes you're like,
Just
man,
cheese on a board.
one of these days, whatever. It's like you know how sometimes you don't feel like cooking and you kind of want something that's like kind of a little bit shitty, and you bust out like a freezer pizza or something like that, or some dino nuggets or something. And it's like,
That's it.
they could be sitting there forever. You know what I mean?
Doesn't
like,
matter.
They're not going to waste.
Bought it in 2016.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna
Like
eat it now.
if I don't eat it now, it's fine. It'll still be there. You know, it's not a big deal. But it's there, and when you want it, oh, it slaps.
Yeah, dude.
I think that's a good analogy. I like that a lot. I prefer there to be a crowd. I think that I like what you're saying about the reason for the Apex cards existing. That makes total sense. I think that's it makes sense, but I still think kind of like not devil's advocate. I look at it almost like a more of a why did we get to this point? Because it seems like a lot of the reason that they have to keep like one championship can't have these events and have their guys fight. PFL can't have these events and have their guys fight. Is it partially because they're like not, run as well as the UFC, especially in PFL's case? I think, yeah, but how much of that is also because the UFC just has all of these fighters and they have everything.
One runs fights every weekend.
Well, they used to do a lot better.
Sometimes they're
starting
running
to
multiple cards a
Yeah,
weekend.
they'll run 2 cards the same day.
Yeah. They'll do a Friday morning and a Friday night.
And they still
Yeah.
are benching dudes. How is that happening? They have
Because
Rodtang fight every second card.
They try to have freaking like every sport.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if you count how many MMA fights are in one a year, it's like
There's like 20 of them.
it's like not that much. Yeah.
And also think about it. Like every card has Superlek, Rodtang, or like a handful of guys, and like you said, they're taking up spaces in multiple sports too. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like they both fight in kickboxing and Muay Thai and like some mixed rule stuff. They're just taking up all of the opportunities, and instead they're just like, oh yeah, Gary Tonin, you just will never fight for us. You know what I mean? Or Patton Payak, we'll have you just take 2 years off.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, dude, one is just flounder. Also, how does one keep losing money?
Bro, I don't know. All right.
Makes no sense.
Okay. Let's look at this. What time is it? 2:30. Okay. Let's just pull up the Leon Brady card. Let's make some picks on it, and let's see how we are doing on our overall picks.
Did we only pick the main event from this past week?
Did we?
Yeah, that's all we picked. And Will, I don't even remember who you said.
I had Vettori. I got it wrong.
Okay, so then you and I both went Vettori. You went Dolidze.
I went Dolidze.
Yeah.
Make sure we put that on the sheet, dog.
No, we can just take a week off.
No.
I'm so excited about this fight. This is a really
I'm gonna
good
miss
one.
it.
I'm gonna miss it live.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, by the way, I'm not
watching
watching the fights this weekend, guys. I'm gonna be in Philly, NCAA's National
Ooh.
Championships Wrestling.
And Jan against Olberg. That's pretty sick too.
All right, let's pick.
Wow, dude,
let's pick the top 3 fights.
Yes.
All right, I'm going Brady.
I'm so torn here, dude. I love both of them so much. Brady's younger, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go Leon then. It's his last chance. Brady will get another one.
I'm taking Brady for sure.
I'm going with my heart here.
Yeah.
But my heart says Brady too. I don't know. Whatever. I'll take Leon.
All right, Jan Blachowicz.
You got me with that one, bro.
Versus Carlos Ulberg.
Oh man, I'm gonna take Jan. Yeah, I wasn't like super impressed with Olberg last
No,
time.
and I found out he's old. Yeah, I'm gonna go Jan.
Yeah, legendary
Polish
Polish power.
I'm taking Jan too.
All right, Kevin Holland versus Gunny Nelson.
How you gonna do this to me? I'm gonna go Holland.
Gunny.
That's a good decision. I'm still sticking Holland.
I haven't thought about this one till right now. Kevin is so good at like just losing everything that he should win and winning everything he should lose.
He's
It's
got a
so
little
weird.
bit of Jalen Turner in him.
Yeah, it's like he's like self-aware, Jalen Turner. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Kevin Holland.
All right, let me tell you guys a quick story about Gunnar Nelson, just to this story. So Gunnar Nelson, I don't remember what year it was, but it was an ADCC year. So he's at the ADCC World Championships, and he loses on day one in his weight class, right? He goes out, he gets hammered, right? Parties. He comes back to day two. He's sitting in the crowd to watch the rest of the tournament. He's all banged up, hammered. They call him to the mat. He got entered into the absolute, and he didn't know. And he had Jeff Monson first match. He steps out of the bleachers, hammered, wearing a T-shirt and shorts. He was free-balling. Said he didn't have any underwear on, and he beats Jeff Monson.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
He beat Jeff Monson?
Yeah.
Was Jeff Monson like older at the time or something? Or
No,
like,
no. This was,
he was like legit Jeff
This
Monson.
was like, I would say this was like 2011 or whatever. I don't know. We should look it up after to see like the validity of
I'm
everything
thinking of
I
the
just said.
right Jeff Monson, big
Yes.
heavyweight, jacked, steroided
Yeah,
up.
but you know that's Gunnar Nelson, right?
I mean, yeah, but Gunnar
One of the
Nelson's
greatest grapplers of all time.
so much smaller. That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. you
And
gotta
didn't Jeff Monson? He was an ADCC champ as well, right?
No.
Oh, he wasn't. Okay. Well, I mean, still really good. That dude, that is shocking. I had no idea.
Right. Yeah. So a crazy story about Gunnar Nelson. Yeah.
Dude, that's insane.
All right.
Real quick, can you slide down? I just want to see who else is on this card.
Molly McCann. I think my cousin's going to these fights.
That's cool.
Dry Herbert.
They're trying to get the British guys on.
Lonier Kavanaugh.
Okay.
Real quick, this was a couple months ago. Jordan Vucenic came over from Cage Warriors, made his debut, right, and fought against Guram Kutateladze.
Yeah.
This guy,
Dude, Guram's good.
people who know me will like roll their eyes at this. Guram is one of those guys. I don't know why he's opening the fight right now. He has like top 15, top 10 skill, and he's been fought like 4
I would
times
say-
in like 4 years. Super inactive, a little bit of bad luck, but he is so good.
I would say his stand up is. I don't know about his
Okay.
entire game.
Paul, what's he running on DraftKings? Well, let's bet on him.
I can't get into DraftKings yet. I still got another week.
Gosh damn. Yeah. Oh, that's right, dude. Yeah, Max turns 21 this Thursday, and I was supposed to take him out for some drinks, but going to Philly.
Dude, Kutateladze. I saw him fight on.
Let me see his
Must have been
record.
like a year ago or something, and I was really impressed with him. He's a lightweight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude, there's some
him and
really
Gamrot
fun-
fought in their debut. Both of them made their debut in the UFC in Fight Chart. It's one of my favorite fights ever.
Didn't see that one. I saw.
I think he beat Ishmagulov. I think this was
That might be the
a
one
pretty
I'm
bad
thinking
one. I
of.
thought.
Interesting. All right, guys. We're going to call it.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for this week's episode. Listen to your coaches. Catch you next time.